Hey, I'm Sophia. Before we start, go grab a snack and get comfortable for a bit. These stories take their time, and they are told the way I'd tell a friend late at night. I really hope you enjoy them. This story has one update on it and my own opinion at the end. Comment and tell me if you agree. Let's begin.
My sister tried to embarrass me, so I planned a surprise that left everyone in shock. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears as my sister tapped the microphone and said, "Can everyone please give my baby sister a round of applause?" The speaker squealed, a few people clapped politely, and I watched her walk to the center of the restaurant's private dining room with that same smug little smile she's had since we were kids. The lights dimmed slightly, the projector behind her flickered to life, and I saw the first slide of her surprise presentation queued up on the laptop. It was a photo of me at 16 with braces, acne, and orange fake tan. I tightened my grip around my champagne flute so hard my fingers ached. "You're gonna love this," Hannah said into the mic, winking at me. My stomach clenched. I could feel the eyes of my friends, my boyfriend, and our extended family all turning toward me. The room smelled like garlic butter and perfume and that faint metallic scent electronics give off when they're overheated. My cheeks were already starting to burn, but this time, instead of shrinking down in my seat, I took a slow breath and glanced over at the DJ. He caught my eye, gave the slightest nod, and rested his hand on the keyboard of his laptop, the one that, in exactly 3 minutes, was going to switch to my presentation instead of hers. It was my 30th birthday that night, and my parents had gone all out. Private room in a nice restaurant, fairy lights, a dessert table with 30 and thriving spelled out in gold letters. Hannah had volunteered to do the speech and entertainment portion because, in her words, "You'll cry if you have to talk about yourself. Let the family extrovert handle it." What no one knew, not my parents, not my boyfriend, not even most of my friends, was that for weeks I'd been listening to her brag in our family group chat and to her friends in person about how she was going to absolutely roast me. "She needs to be humbled," she'd said once, laughing. "I've got some epic throwbacks. She'll want to crawl under the table." This dynamic isn't new. I'm Emma, the sensitive one. Hannah is 3 years older than me and has always been the loud, charismatic, center of attention sister. Growing up, she wasn't just the funny sibling. She was the one who used humor like a scalpel. If there was something I was insecure about, my weight, my crush, my grades, she'd find a way to turn it into a joke in front of other people. My parents would say things like, "Oh, she's only teasing," or, "You know Hannah, no filter," as if that made it okay. Some of her jokes still live rent-free in my head. When I was 13 and had finally worked up the nerve to try out for the school play, she marched into the kitchen while her friends were over and announced, "Guess who's decided she's an actress now?" Then she mimicked my audition monologue in a squeaky voice until everyone was crying with laughter. I pretended to laugh too, and then cried in the shower later. At my university graduation, when I was thrilled to walk across that stage as the first person in our family with a degree, Hannah waited until the dinner afterwards to stand up and say, "I'd like to make an announcement." We all thought she meant a toast for me. Instead, she put a hand on her stomach and said, "I'm 12 weeks pregnant." Everyone screamed and hugged her. My dad cried. My Nana forgot to finish her "We're so proud of you, Emma" sentence because she was too busy asking Hannah about morning sickness.
So yeah,
I have a history of getting overshadowed or humiliated for Hannah's entertainment. And I have a long history of swallowing it, telling myself, it's not worth the drama, and then hating myself later for not standing up for me. The turning point came a few months before my birthday. Hannah and I were at our parents' house helping Mum sort through old boxes. Mum went to grab us tea, leaving us alone in the lounge room with a pile of photo albums. Hannah grabbed my phone to put music on, opened Spotify, then casually flicked through my photos to find one she'd taken of her kids. "God, you're still taking bathroom selfies?" she said, scrolling. "Get off my phone," I snapped, reaching for it. She dodged me and, before I could stop her, opened my notes app. My stomach dropped. I have a habit of journaling there when I'm anxious, raw, unfiltered stuff. "Things I wish I could say to my family but never do," she read aloud in a sing-song voice. Ew, this looks juicy. I lunged and grabbed it out of her hands. I'm serious, Hannah. That's private. She smirked.
Relax.
If you don't want people to read your thoughts, maybe don't write them down like you're in a YA novel. Something in me cracked. Do you ever get tired of being cruel? I asked, my voice shaking. She rolled her eyes. Oh my God, lighten up. It's called banter. People would die for a sister like me. I didn't say it then, but a sentence flashed through my mind so bright it was almost like someone else was thinking it. One day, you're going to push me too far. That one day turned out to be the week before my birthday. I was at a cafe with my friend Maya, nursing a cold chai and venting about how my parents barely seemed interested in what I was doing with my life. For the record, I'm not some lost soul drifting around. I'm a physiotherapist, I love my job, I live in a tiny but cute apartment, and I'm in a stable, healthy relationship with a guy named Daniel who actually listens to me. But to my parents, it's like the only life events that matter are Hannah's kids, Hannah's husband, Hannah's house. My phone buzzed on the table. It was our family group chat. Hannah, guys, for Emma's birthday, I'm putting together a slideshow. Please send me your worst photos/stories of her. The more embarrassing, the better. I want her crying with laughter, and maybe just crying. Mum, don't be too mean, love. Hannah, oh please, she can handle it. It's character building. Dad, I've got some great ones from that haircut phase. They were sending laughing emojis and old photos. My chest tightened. I typed, please don't make the whole night about making fun of me, then deleted it. I didn't want to be dramatic. Hannah added, also, if anyone remembers that time she got dumped in year 12 and wrote emo poetry for 6 months, send the poems. I swear I saw them somewhere. Maya saw my face drain of color. What happened? I passed her the phone. She read the messages, her eyes narrowing. Wow, she said. She's really committed to the sister as punching bag bit, huh? I tried to laugh it off, but my throat was tight. It's fine.
She always does this.
It's like her thing. Maya put the phone down. No, she said firmly. It's her problem. And you don't have to keep volunteering to be the target. I can't say anything, I muttered. My parents will just tell me to lighten up. Or they'll say she doesn't mean it. Then maybe you don't say anything, she replied. Maybe you just stop playing her game. That sentence sat with me all night. Stop playing her game. And then, because the universe likes to hand you material when it knows you're watching for it, I saw something I couldn't unsee. Hannah called me later that week, sobbing. Can you watch the kids for an hour? Mark and I had a fight, and I need to clear my head. Mark is her husband, the kind of solid, slightly boring guy who brings potato salad to barbecues and always fills people's petrol tanks when he borrows their cars. I said yes because the kids didn't deserve to be collateral damage. She dropped them off, mascara smudged, and drove away. The kids fell asleep on my couch watching Bluey, and I went to text Hannah to ask if she wanted them to stay the night. Her iPad was in the nappy bag. It pinged with a message just as I picked it up. On the lock screen, a preview popped up. Can't stop thinking about last night. When can I see you again? X.T. I froze. Technically, I could have put it down, pretended I hadn't seen it. But another message came in, and my thumb moved before my conscience could catch up. This time the preview read, Hotel again next week? I'll tell them I'm working late. My stomach turned. My hands were shaking as I unlocked the iPad. Yes, with her birthday. It's the same code she's had for everything since we were teenagers. What I saw made it very clear that Hannah had been working late with someone named Tom for at least 3 months. I didn't need to scroll far. There were selfies, hotel receipts, and more than enough explicit messages to choke a priest. I closed the iPad like it had burned me. My heart was racing, my thoughts spinning. She's cheating on Mark, my brother-in-law, the father of my niece and nephew, the guy who did the baby night feeds when she needed her sleep. And because I'm me, my first instinct wasn't leverage. It was, oh my God, what do I do with this? When Hannah came back, she looked calmer. I almost told her right then. Instead, I just watched her hug her kids and joke about needing a wine. Over the next few days, I wrestled with it. Do I tell Mark? Do I confront her? Do I stay out of it completely? Every option felt like a bomb in a different room of the same house. Then the group chat ramped up again. Hannah found some hysterical old love letters Emma wrote to that guy who dumped her before formal. These are going in the slideshow for sure. She was still digging for material to humiliate me, while lying to her husband and using me as free childcare. Something hardened inside me. That's when I stopped playing her game and decided to set up my own. I didn't do it lightly. I screenshotted the messages with Tom and saved them to a secure folder. I talked to my therapist about it. Yes, I have one. No, I don't regret it. She didn't tell me what to do, but she did ask, what would standing up for yourself look like, instead of just avoiding conflict? So I came up with a plan that wasn't about sadistically blowing up her life, but about not letting her use my birthday as her latest stage. If she was going to weaponize truth and honesty in the form of crappy jokes, I was going to use actual truth. I talked to the restaurant and the DJ, technically the AV guy. I asked if I could also run a short slideshow after Hannah's. He shrugged and said, sure, just send me the file. I titled my PowerPoint, Things I Learned from My Big Sister. The night of the party, my stomach was tight with nerves. Daniel squeezed my hand under the table. You okay? He whispered. I'm either about to finally stand up for myself, I whispered back, or start World War III. And that's where we circle back to Hannah standing at the mic, grinning as she clicked to the first slide of me in all my teenage awkwardness. The room laughed. It wasn't all malicious. Some people genuinely thought it was cute. But Hannah didn't stop there. She showed a slide of me passed out on a couch at some uni party, sharpadoodles on my face. Classic Emma, she said. Always so emotional. She showed a screenshot of an old Facebook status I'd written at 19. Some days I just feel like disappearing. She put on a fake weepy voice and said, we all had to deal with the melodrama. My chest felt tight. I could see Maya across the room, her jaw clenched. Daniel had gone very still next to me. Then she moved to a scanned page of a poem, my handwriting messy and raw. She'd found one of my year 12 notebooks. Oh my God, this one is my favorite, she said. This is from when Jason dumped her a week before formal. Listen to this. I am a cracked mirror, cutting myself on reflections you don't see. She cackled. Like, who writes this? Something in me snapped. I stood up. The chair scraped loudly against the floor. Conversations died. Hannah turned, mic in hand, eyebrows raised. Sit down, Em. I'm nearly finished, she laughed. No, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. You are. I nodded at the DJ. He swallowed, glanced at his laptop, and hit a key. The projector behind Hannah flickered. Her slide vanished, replaced by the title card of my presentation. Things I Learned from My Big Sister, featuring actual receipts. The room went silent. Emma, what are you doing? Mum hissed from the other end of the table. I walked up to the front, my legs shaking but moving anyway. You wanted honesty tonight, right? I said, taking the mic from Hannah's hand. Up close, I could see her eyes hardening. The first slide came up, a collage of photos of us as kids. Me trailing after her, her holding my hand, us in terrible matching Christmas jumpers. This is my sister, Hannah, I said. She's funny, charismatic, and I spent most of my childhood wanting to be just like her. A few people smiled. Hannah relaxed a fraction, suspicious but unsure.
Click.
The next slide. A list titled Jokes That Weren't Jokes, with bullet points like reading my diary to your friends at 13, announcing your pregnancy at my graduation, trying to get everyone to send their worst stories about me for tonight. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. Hannah took a step toward me. Okay, enough, this is ridiculous, she muttered. I stepped away from her. See, here's the thing, I said into the mic, my voice shaking now but still going. I've spent my whole life being the punchline so other people could laugh. And for a long time I told myself that was love with a sense of humor. But it wasn't. It was just cruelty dressed up as entertainment. I clicked again. The next slide was a blurred screenshot of the messages I'd found. Names and explicit content obscured, but enough visible to show the phrases. Hotel again next week. I'll tell them I'm working late, and Hannah's profile picture at the top of the thread. The room sucked in a collective breath. Mark, sitting near the front, leaned forward. "What is that?" he asked, his voice low. Hannah went white. "Turn it off," she snapped, lunging for the laptop. I stepped between her and the table. "I covered the worst of it," I said quickly. "I didn't want to humiliate you the way you've spent years humiliating me. But I need everyone to understand something. The person who thinks my pain is funny is also lying to her husband and using working late as a punchline too." "Emma, stop," Mum whispered, horrified. "This is not the place." "Neither was my graduation," I said, my throat burning. "Neither was tonight." Mark stood up slowly, his eyes locked on Hannah. "Is that real?" he asked. She opened her mouth, closed it. "She's twisting it," she stammered. "She's always been jealous, It's real," I said, swallowing hard. "I have the full conversation. I've had it for months. I've been sitting on it, hoping you'd do the right thing. But then you decided that my 30th birthday should be your comedy special." The silence was deafening. You could hear the clink of someone nervously setting down their fork. Mark's face crumpled. He didn't yell. That almost made it worse. He just shook his head, once, like he'd been slapped, and walked out of the room. Hannah turned on me, eyes blazing. "You vindictive little bitch," she hissed. "You've ruined my marriage." I felt tears prick my eyes, but I forced myself to meet her glare. "No," I said quietly into the mic. "You did that. I just refused to keep covering for you." I put the microphone down on the table. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely straighten my dress. Then I looked around the room, at my parents, pale and stunned, at my aunt, staring, at my friends, wide-eyed. "I'm going to leave now," I said. "Please enjoy the rest of the night. The cake's really good." I walked out before anyone could stop me. On the street, the cool night air hit my face and I finally let myself cry, big ugly sobs that tasted like champagne and 10 years of swallowed anger. Daniel caught up with me outside, wrapped his jacket around my shoulders, and just held me while I shook. "I'm proud of you," he murmured into my hair. "That was messy, but you finally stood up for yourself." "And blew up Christmas forever," I hiccuped. "Maybe Christmas needed a controlled demolition," he said. I didn't sleep much that night. My phone buzzed constantly, missed calls from Mum, furious texts from Hannah. "I will never forgive you" was the gentlest one. A single, "We need to talk" from Mark. I put it on Do Not Disturb and lay awake listening to my own breathing, wondering if I'd gone too far, or finally just far enough. That's where things stood for a while. Me in my tiny apartment, family group chat eerily silent, waiting for the fallout. Let's pause and unpack this absolute family nuclear launch for a second. Because on the surface, it looks like Emma just carpet-bombed her sister's life at a birthday dinner. But if you rewind the tape, the context matters a lot. Hannah has been running the weaponized humor playbook for years. Reading diaries, hijacking graduations, turning genuinely painful moments into party games. That's not light teasing. That's systematic boundary stomping with a laugh track. And everyone around her, parents included, enabled it under the banner of banter. Which, by the way, is British for "I'm mean but don't want to be held accountable." Emma, for her part, has spent decades doing the socially approved thing, swallowing it, crying in private, trying not to ruin the mood. When she finally hits her limit, it's not because of one slideshow. It's because she's holding a live grenade of information about Hannah's affair and watching her sister gleefully sharpen the knives for yet another public humiliation. Was dropping the cheater receipts in the middle of a birthday dinner the most graceful move? Absolutely not. This was not conflict mediation. This was red wedding energy. Kids were present, extended family was present, and Mark got blindsided in a room full of people. As cathartic as it is to read, that part is harsh. But if we're grading on moral curve, Hannah lit the fuse years ago. Emma didn't climb up on a saintly high horse. She got down into the mud and finally pushed back using the only language her sister seemed to understand: public consequences. It's messy, ethically questionable, and also deeply, viscerally human. Update: 8 months later.
So,
A lot has happened since I detonated my 30th birthday. I went low contact with my family for a while after that night. Not a dramatic, "you're all dead to me" speech. Just silence. I muted the group chat. I didn't go to Sunday lunches. I let Mom's calls go to voicemail more often than not. Part of it was self-preservation. Part of it was giving them space to deal with the immediate fallout that wasn't mine to manage. Here's what I know now, mostly pieced together through a combination of later conversations, whispered updates from relatives, and one extremely awkward coffee with my mother. First, Hannah and Mark separated a week after my party. He confronted her privately, thank God, with what I'd shown him plus what he'd already suspected, because as it turned out, my screenshots were just the tip of the iceberg. She admitted to the affair with Tom, then tried to downplay it as an emotional connection that got out of hand. The problem was, Tom's wife did not consider it emotional, especially not after she found the same hotel receipts. Mark moved into his brother's house. They started marriage counseling mostly from what I gather so they could say they tried. But according to Mom, every session seemed to turn into Hannah complaining about how everyone is overreacting and Emma deliberately humiliated me to look like the good one. Mom, who is the reigning gold medalist in avoiding conflict, found the whole thing unbearable. When she finally convinced me to meet her for coffee 2 months later, she looked 10 years older. "We didn't raise you girls to destroy each other like this," she said, stirring her cappuccino so hard the phone vanished. I took a slow sip of my tea. "You didn't raise us to protect each other either," I said gently. "You raised me to sit quietly while Hannah made me the family clown." She flinched. "That's not fair." "It is," I replied, and for once, I didn't rush to soften it. "I'm not saying you did it on purpose. But every time you laughed when she read my private stuff, every time you told me to lighten up instead of telling her to stop, you taught her that my feelings were optional." Mom's eyes filled with tears. "I just didn't want arguments," she whispered. "I know," I said. "But avoiding arguments doesn't prevent damage. It just buries it." We sat in silence for a bit. Then she said, "What you did that night showing those messages, it was cruel." "I know," I admitted. "I'm not pretending it was some noble act. I regret that Mark found out in front of everyone. He didn't deserve that. But I don't regret refusing to be her punchline anymore." She nodded slowly. "Your father says the same," she muttered, surprising me. "He actually told Hannah that what she'd been doing to you for years wasn't funny." She screamed at him, of course. Hearing that weirdly helped. I'd assumed Dad would be firmly in Team Hannah. The idea that he'd noticed more than he'd shown made something in my chest loosen slightly. Asked about the kids. Mom's face softened. "They're confused," she said. "They know Daddy lives somewhere else now." Hannah told them Auntie Emma was mean to Mummy, which I've told her was unfair. I don't think they really understand any of it. That stung, knowing my niece and nephew had been given a villain origin story starring me. But I also knew they were small. Reality could be gently corrected later. A few weeks after that coffee, I got a text from Hannah. "Hannah, we need to talk." My thumb hovered over the keyboard for a long time. Every cell in my body tensed at the idea of hearing her voice. But ignoring her forever wasn't realistic, and part of me wanted closure. If not peace, then at least clarity. We met at a park near my flat. Neutral ground, lots of witnesses, minimal chance of someone dramatically flipping a table. She looked tired, dark circles, hair scraped into a messy bun. The kind of hoodie you wear when you've stopped caring what you look like. "So," she said, folding her arms, "you ruined my marriage." I took a breath. "No," I said. "You cheated. That ruined your marriage. I just refused to pretend I didn't know." She rolled her eyes. "You could have told me privately. Or Mark. You didn't have to blast it on a projector." "You're right," I said calmly. "I could have handled it better." I've thought about that a lot. I'm sorry for how public it was. I am. But I'm not sorry I stopped letting you weaponize me for laughs. She blinked, clearly not expecting an apology that wasn't also a grovel. You humiliated me, she insisted. You humiliated me for years, I replied. You read my diary. You mocked my mental health. You literally turned my heartbreak into entertainment. Did you ever apologize? That's different, she said immediately. That was just sibling stuff. It wasn't to me, I said. You keep acting like intent is all that matters. I didn't mean to hurt you, so you can't be hurt. That's not how this works, Han. She looked away, jaw clenched. Mum said you're in therapy, she muttered. Figures. And I pay for it with the money from my real career, I said lightly. You should try it sometime. A therapist, I mean. There was a flicker, just a tiny flash of something like doubt, on her face. Then it was gone. So what now, she asked. Are you just done with me? I thought about it. About the history, the patterns, the part of me that still loves the sister who held my hand on the first day of school. No, I said slowly. I'm not done with you. But I'm done playing the role you wrote for me. If you want to be in my life, it has to be as my sister, not my heckler. No more jokes at my expense. No more reading my stuff without consent. No more ambushing me with roasts that are just cruelty. If you slip, I'll call it out once. If it keeps happening, I'll leave.
She scoffed.
So you get to make the rules now? No, I said. I get to make the rules for me now. You can decide if you want to fit into them or not. We left it there.
No hacks, no dramatic reconciliation.
Just an uneasy kind of truce. Since then, things have shifted. My parents are trying, in their clumsy way. Dad has actually asked me about my job and listened to the answer. Mum sends me recipes and pictures of the kids and makes a conscious effort not to immediately pivot every conversation back to Hannah. The family group chat has toned down the at Emma's expense content dramatically. Hannah, and I keep it surface level. Photos of the kids, logistics for birthdays, the occasional meme. She hasn't made a public joke about me since that night. Whether that's out of respect or just fear of what I'll put on a projector next is unclear, but I'll take it. Mark and I met for coffee once. He told me he didn't blame me for telling the truth, but wished he'd learned it a different way. I told him I agreed. We both apologized for different things, but sincerely. He and Hannah are in the slow, painful process of divorce. It sucks. There's no satisfaction in that part, only a kind of heavy inevitability. As for me, I've been focusing on my own life. I got a promotion at the clinic. Daniel and I moved in together. For my 31st, I had a small dinner with friends.
No slideshows. No speeches.
Just people who like me without needing me to bleed for their entertainment. Do I ever regret what I did? Parts of it, yes. The timing, the delivery, the collateral damage to people who didn't deserve a front row seat. But do I regret finally, loudly, absolutely refusing to be the family joke?
No.
That moment, messy, explosive, imperfect, was the first time I chose my own dignity over keeping the peace. And honestly, the biggest shock of all wasn't the affair reveal. It was the look on people's faces when they realized I wasn't going to quietly take it anymore. Let's lay out the cast and hand out some verdicts, because everyone in this story earns at least a little scrutiny. Emma, Opie, she is not a saint, and that's what makes her compelling. She hits her breaking point and chooses the nuclear option, not the careful diplomatic path. Broadcasting the affair at a birthday dinner, with kids and extended family present, is absolutely overkill in terms of delivery. If a judge were grading this, appropriate venue would get a 2/10.
But morally?
You can't ignore that this eruption is the end result of years of minimized hurt. She tried the swallow it and stay quiet method for decades. It didn't protect her. It just made her an easier target. Her real glow-up isn't the revenge. It's the boundaries she sets afterward. Clear rules, willingness to walk away, and zero appetite for being the family clown anymore. Hannah, the sister, she's like a walking poster for unexamined privilege. She weaponizes banter as a shield, uses other people's vulnerabilities as content, and genuinely believes that her intent should override everyone else's experience. The affair isn't a one-off moral slip. It's part of a consistent pattern of believing rules are for other people. Her first response to being caught is blame shifting. "You ruined my marriage," as if screenshots climbed into bed with Tom all by themselves. She's not evil, but she is staggeringly self-centered and emotionally lazy. Therapy could help her crack that shell, but she'd have to stop sprinting away from accountability long enough to sit on the couch. Mom and Dad, they're the quiet accomplices. They didn't set out to hurt Emma, but their fear of conflict turned into a long-term endorsement of Hannah's behavior. Every lighten up, every chuckle at a cruel joke taught both daughters a lesson. One that she couldn't complain, and one that she could get away with anything if she was entertaining enough. To their credit, they do start to wake up. Dad backing Emma in front of Liam in the previous story's universe. Here, Dad telling Hannah her behavior wasn't funny, Mom inviting Emma to speak at an event. Those are baby steps, but meaningful ones. They're not absolved, but they're at least moving in the right direction. Mark, honestly, the most innocent collateral damage. His one crime was trusting his wife. Finding out at a birthday party is brutal. His pain is valid, and Emma's own update acknowledges that. The fact that he later sits down with her and separates the truth she told from the way she told it is emotionally intelligent. 10 points to the potato salad husband. Overall, this is a story about a generational pattern finally snapping. Emma doesn't break the cycle neatly. She smashes it with a projector and a shaky-handed speech. It's messy, morally gray, and absolutely not how a therapist would script it. But in real life, people rarely liberate themselves with perfect timing and calm voices. Sometimes it looks exactly like this. The quiet one standing up at a family table and saying, "Enough," even if the words come out through tears and accompanied by chaos.